Bill Hopkins here for the Native Plant Society of Texas. In 1998, the Native Plant Society of Texas held its annual symposium in Amarillo, October 15th through 18th, in conjunction with the New Mexico and Oklahoma societies, focused on the Southern High Plains, also called the Llano Estacado. Photos and text in this PowerPoint are by Betsy Farris and narration by myself. An outstanding feature of the Llano Estacado is Palo Duro Canyon, the second largest canyon in North America. It formed 250 million years ago and is what is left of an ancient delta. There are two parks in Palo Duro Canyon, the Palo Duro State Park and Caprock Canyons State Park. The rest is almost totally privately owned and primarily used for ranching. Palo Duro Canyon State Park is the furthest north of the two parks and is at the head of this ancient delta. This photo is looking south from where the canyon begins. Caprock Canyon State Park is further south at the edge of this ancient shallow delta. Today, Palo Duro Creek flows through the canyon and is a tributary into the Red River. Millions of years ago, water covered most of this area. Sediments and water settle in horizontal layers. Deposits that are at an angle result from a stream dropping sediment as it enters a standing body of water. Layers of sandstone and gypsum are Permian rock layers formed during the Permian Age, which was between 250 and 280 million years ago. The blocky Triassic period is when the first dinosaurs appeared. The caprock is the layer of caliche at the top deposited in the Pliocene era. The Pliocene era was 2 to 10 million years ago and was just before the Ice Age. Rock and soil sliding downward form talus deposits at the foot of cliffs. The Panhandle is a semi-arid region, and erosion has sculpted the landscape. Geologists have determined that from 1/10 of an inch to 1 inch of soil is removed every year. Heavy rainstorms, and sheet wash, and channel cutting are the most destructive erosional agents. There's also been found evidence of an ancient volcano. This photo shows a cliff with heavy erosion and once would have been one continuous cliff. Palo Duro Canyon State Park is over 16,000 acres. During the summer, the outdoor drama Texas is performed at an open-air theater at the foot of a high cliff seen at the center of this photo. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado was the first and most famous Spanish explorer to cross the Panhandle north from Mexico City with a large army in 1541. He went as far as Kansas, looking for the rich province of Guevara, but of course, it was never found. He had 3 camps in and around Palo Duro Canyon. 2 of the camps have been found, and archaeologists are looking for the 3rd. Coronado and his explorers called the mesas Spanish skirts. since the ridges look like ruffles of skirts and petticoats, or else they were very homesick. Archaeologists recognize 4 major stages of Indian occupation in the park and surrounding areas. Coronado encountered Careco and Teya Indians, which were very early Apache brands. The Careco and Teyas existed between 1450 and 1700 and were totally dependent on the bison for food, fuel, clothing, and shelter. This is a replica of Colonel Charles Goodnight's dugout that he used when settling in the Canyon era. He moved to the Panhandle in 1876 after establishing the Goodnight Loving Trail that went from Belknap, Texas to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. There is a town in the Panhandle called Goodnight, named for him near his ranch where he died. The inside of the dugout. Caprock Canyon State Parks was once a ranch which raised cows, sheep, and goats. Now, the state's largest herd of bison live here. Caprock is the local terminology for the high plains. The high plains are so flat that rainwater collects in what is called playas. The greenish line in the center of the photo is the playa. This is another playa in the background with a prairie dog town in the foreground. The prairie dog towns are sometimes shared by burrowing owls along with the prairie dog, shown here. John Snowden in the green hat, owner of the Blue Stem Nursery, was along on the Caprock Canyon's field trip and identified grasses for us. Here he is pointing out upland switchgrasses on either side of the trail. This is a type of grass with a common name of eyebrow grass. This is Tim Kiphart, past environmental liaison for the Native Plant Society, looking at a native mimosa with a red berry juniper behind him. Here, Tim is admiring some big blue stem. Another common name is turkeyfoot. It's the star component of the 4 main tallgrass prairie grasses. At one time, it was very abundant, but cattle love it so much, some ranchers refer to it as ice cream for cows. So it's been overgrazed. Agarita, Barbarus trifoliata, often forms thickets of gray-green to blue-gray, holly-like foliage that has needle-sharp tips. Clusters of fragrant yellow flowers are followed by red berries, making it a good honey source. Yucca is well suited to the well-drained upland soils of the canyon. Little leaf sumac or desert sumac makes an attractive hedge or background plant and are important for wildlife. They're fast growing, generally pest and disease free, and drought tolerant. Blackfoot daisy in the foreground, Basidotes grama in the background. Blackfoot daisy is a sturdy mounding plant that works well in rock gardens and is heat and drought tolerant. Not only is Psidotes grama the state grass of Texas, but this medium tall grass mixes well in plantings with spring wildflowers because it stays short in the spring. Also, birds love the ripe seeds. Mesquite is drought tolerant and only becomes a tree if it has deep watering, remaining a shrub if not irrigated. Though it has sharp thorns, livestock graze the seed pods and it attracts bees, butterflies, fruit bats, and mammals. Zoe Kirkpatrick taking a picture of a wolfberry. Zoe is from Post, Texas, and is the author of Wildflowers of the High Plains. Wolfberry is found on flats, along washes, on dry gravelly to sandy hills, and on rocky slopes. The fruit is a small red berry and is eaten by small birds and mammals. Native Americans ate the berries and used the plant for a wide variety of medicinal purposes. These sand tubes are created by termites. In the background, they have made a tube around the mesquite tree trunk. Tasajillo is a cactus made up of slender cylindrical joints that often twist together with other plants to form impenetrable thickets. Flowers are small, yellowish green, followed by red or purple rounded fruit that gives it one of its common names, Christmas cactus. Liatris, or gayfeather, in the middle of the trail with some Psidotes grama in the foreground. The tufted purple flowers of the Liatris are densely congested in a long spike on the upper part of the stem. It blooms late summer or fall and attracts butterflies. This is a prickly pear cactus. Notice the white splotches on it. These are web-like and are the webs of the cochineal bug. This bug was used by Native Americans to make a deep red dye, which is still used today. Lowland switchgrass attracts butterflies, and seeds are eaten by ground-feeding songbirds and game birds, providing cover and nesting material. Salt cedar. This plant is not a native, but was planted here to be used as erosion control and has gotten out of hand. These flattened looking grasses are eastern gamma grasses, which John Snowden was surprised to see so far west. they may be flattened because of roosting by birds. Former state president Peter Luce, standing next to an Engelmann's milkweed. Though valuable to bumblebees, it can be toxic to animals and humans. Some of the largest wildlife in Palo Duro Canyon is the mule deer, which can weigh as much as 450 pounds, and Barbary sheep that is native to North Africa that were introduced in the 1950s. They have large, curving horns and weigh as much as 250 pounds. Also seen were porcupine, 13-lined ground squirrel, gray fox, white three-toed wood rat, and ringtails, which are related to the raccoon. Birds we saw included wild turkey, as shown here. And also the roadrunner in the center of this photo. Other birds include the bald eagle, golden eagle, osprey, turkey vulture, Mississippi kite, American kestrel, and many hawks, such as the red-tailed hawk, Cooper's hawk, pigeon hawk, and the northern harrier. Other flying creatures that were easier to photograph are the queen butterfly, the Gulf fritillary, and this variegated fritillary. The 14,000 acres of the park is located in an ecotone, the transition zone between two distinct ecological provinces. The towering bluffs and sheer red cliffs of the Cap Rock escarpment form the boundary between the flat, high plains and the eroded rolling plains. From up on the high plains grassland to the west, the land drops down into scarp woodlands on the eroded slopes of the cliffs. Below the canyon slopes are stream terraces. Then the riverine woodlands along streams and floodplains transition into the mixed grass prairie on the rolling plains to the east. Palo Duro Canyon, a panorama of colors full of spectacular vistas and geologic wonders.